All right. Here we go. And we're live. Perfect. Welcome, everybody. Just turning on my auto transcript here. There we go. I see everybody's coming on in. Happy Tuesday. I can't forget that it's Tuesday. Usually this is Thursday, everybody. So find my chat. I know how to use Zoom, guys. It's coming. Welcome. March 23rd already. Change is in the air. Let us know where you're coming from in the chat. Make sure to change the to all panelists, all attendees, folks. This way everybody sees the questions that come through. And let's as well here in Ontario. Welcome, Ontario. I was thinking to myself earlier, I remember the Ontario, it's a place to grow theme. So let us know where in Ontario you're coming from. Proudly Canadian here today. Hello, Muskoka, Prairie Sound, Ottawa, St. Catharines. I know here in Southern Ontario, at least I obviously can speak for the Toronto area, that it is just beautiful. Yesterday was gorgeous. Today even better. I know we're supposed to have a mix of weather over the next 2 days. Hello, Perth. We have some folks from Hi Mama out that way. Hello, Bruce Peninsula. Sunny in Ottawa. Fantastic. Hello, hi, Karini. Hi. Hello, Six Nations. We're a tad bit behind here running. Let everybody settle on in 2 or 3 minutes, and then we're going to get started. The conversation's been about this last 2 weeks or so. The changes to the CCEYA. I'm excited to talk a little bit more. Some great things have definitely come out of this. Ups and downs that we always have to work through, no matter what, with changes. So c'est la vie, it always happens. So say hi to Kaya in the chat, folks. If you've never met Kyle, you're going to meet her in a few minutes. Don't worry. Hello, Brampton. Hello, Toronto. Some Windsor. Very warm out that way. Get outside, folks. Join the kiddos today. I'm sure they're up to their knees in mud. That's okay, though. It means they're having fun. All right. We're going to give you to the 5 pass here just to get started. Welcome, folks. Hello, Oakville. I see you there. If you guys need the CC button, oh my goodness, I call it the CC button all the time, guys. But if you need the closed captions, please do turn that on. We're recording in that for you as well. So it's just a CC tab down there. And if you haven't, Kaya just posted it. Please join our Facebook community of educators all around the world. Phenomenal place, raising ideas, questions, talking about what other people are putting in place. Obviously, if you're looking for maybe even just like a spark of inspiration, it's a fantastic place to go and get an idea about what's going on. Like I said, the community is there. It's fantastic. I do highly recommend. Please answer all the questions. That's super important to be accepted into the group. Okay, we're there to keep the community safe. 1 more minute and we are going to get started because this is important. We need to have conversation about this. I've been looking forward to just talking Ontario. I obviously, like lots of us have probably been doing reading about it, just listening to what's going on in the news, hearing what people have to say. At the end of the day, I'm excited to actually have this conversation. So hello, Markham. 1 more minute here and let's get started. Folks, get outside after this. I do recommend. Fantastic, beautiful day. I had to close the window though. It was getting a little nippy. Hello, Newmarket. Welcome. Welcome, folks. For those of you who are just joining us, please do make sure to change your to in the chat to all panelists, all attendees. Just a little arrow pointing down. It allows you to change. This way, everyone gets to hear questions. I'm sure people have the same questions. So let's get started. Folks, let's do this. Talk a little bit more about Ontario. As always, though, I can't stress this enough. We are not your legal, financial advice. We're not your licensing advice. The idea here is to obviously take away great thoughts, tips, techniques, whether you're implementing them in the classroom, whether you're implementing them within the office, whatever's going on. Make sure to talk to the right people, especially around something like what's going on with the CCEYA. Please make sure to talk to even your licensing rep. Like, utilize every resource you have out there, that they're there for that, and to making sure that you're on the right path, especially with changes. It's just an important thing to go about. Here in Ontario, let's do our land acknowledgement here for today. Kaya just told me can't hear. Oh, and of course I've skipped ahead. What's going on? What's going on? Back or up? This is my apologies, folks. Technology. I know exactly what happened, Kaya. I know exactly what I did. My apologies, folks. Take two.
Hi Mama acknowledges that our main headquarters is situated in Toronto, Ontario, on the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, and the Haudenosaunee and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. Toronto itself is a word that originates from the Mohawk word takaranto, meaning the place in the water where the trees are standing. As participants and guests in today's webinar, we are coming together from many different places around the world. We encourage you to learn about and acknowledge the land from which you participate. Hi Mama is committed to fostering an inclusive and welcoming environment for our employees, customers, and community. Hi Mama welcomes and celebrates individuals of all backgrounds, orientations, and identities. Our Diversity, Inclusion, and Belonging Committee aims to ensure we provide a safe environment for everyone to thrive while bringing their authentic selves to work. Our mission is to promote an inclusive workspace for all employees through education, discussion, and celebration of our differences. Embracing these differences while coming together with a common purpose is what makes our team extra special.
I promise that I've figured out Zoom after all this time, folks. I'll get there. You're most welcome, folks. All right, as always, some housekeeping pieces. We are always recording. So you'll get to relook at my boo-boo once again. I'm just joking. You'll be able to listen back, and if you had any questions that maybe you'd heard something and you wanted to go ahead and do so, I'm going to send everything out to you tomorrow in a nice little email. It's called our show notes email. So you can actually get your certificate if you want the slides from today, any links we're talking about. It will all be there for you. I'd mentioned this earlier. Please, if you'd like some closed captions, hit the CC tab. I love the CC tab. And as well, we are going to give you guys out a participation certificate. So if you would like to get it today, it's going to be in the chat later on. And not to worry if you can't get it today, because I know some folks have had trouble just clicking in. I will send it tomorrow. So not to fret, it will be in the show notes. It'll be available there in the chat today once again. And last but not least, if you're having any issues, and I hope no one does, please do seek support.zoom.us. They're the best for you here, folks, because they know their product 100% better than I do, clearly. I'm just kidding. But they're the best to support you on that if you're having any issues. So if this is your first webinar with us, I want to say welcome. If this is we're almost up to 50th. Welcome back. I'm Maria. I'm one of the early childhood educators here at Hi Mama. I'm also the community ambassador. And I have with me my colleague Kaya. Kaya's on chat. Kaya is also an educator. Kaya, say a few words about you.
Oh gosh, hey everyone, I'm happy to be back and happy to be back with the Ontario family. Fun update from Hi Mama. Ria just mentioned we're coming up on our 50th webinar, which is wild.
Yeah.
But we're also gonna have a super special 60th webinar. I knew we couldn't get this very popular guest for our 50th, so we're gonna push them to our 60th. So stay tuned for a special announcement. And also we're coming up on our 250th podcast, which is wild. We've been having this for years with our CEO, Ron Spurenberg. So I'm going to be interviewing Ron on our podcast for our 250th episode. It's super exciting. So stay tuned for that. And I'm here on chat if you need anything.
Kaya's your go-to, folks. Questions, send them her way. Use the Q&A. Very excited to be here in Ontario, the home of Hi Mama, actually. So today, later on in a few minutes, we're going to bring these fantastic people on, but we have Ryan coming from Helping Hands Daycare. If anybody's seen any of our previous webinar, Ryan was on with Meg not too long ago, and Linda joining us from Green Apples Kids. And I'm excited to have both of these fantastic Ontario folks with us. Let's talk what's happening in the education space here in Ontario, the CCEYA. I want to dive in, not too long, okay? I want to talk a little bit about the changes. I want to highlight some of the key points There are tons of points, folks. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to be able to cover all of them because we only have so much time. And I personally would rather spend talking with Ryan and Linda. So at the end of the day, I do recommend, if you have not done your homework yet, now is the time to start reading the changes, to familiarize yourself, get to know if there's any changes that actually really do come down on you, if you're doing something different than what's been told, just figure out what those things are and get going from there. So just to give you a better idea, let's start though, those changes here. Man, I remember when I first started in the center, we were following the DNA. So that starts to date me a little bit, but I was in the transition when we came into all of this, but it's at a high level. Originally, when they came out with the proposal, the Ministry of Education, they came out with these 6 highlights. For the most part, they pretty much have stuck to them. They haven't really varied at all. And for the most part, a lot of them are some pretty good changes. Update in just language, for example. We're 2021. You do need to give some language updates. The way programs are run are obviously very different than they were 10 years ago, even 2 years ago. We'll leave COVID out of it for now. We know they've done a lot of different things no matter where you are, but at the high level, we're talking about, supporting quality, huge quality, no matter where you are. Every director, owner, teacher, you name it, whoever you may be, you're looking for quality and making sure that as a center, you're giving that quality. And that's always at the top of mind. So some of the pieces under that, of course, we're going to talk as well with Ryan and Linda a little bit more, allowing for a digital first approach. It is 2021. COVID has obviously made a lot of changes because of that. So, parents aren't allowed in the center, and being able to have that happen, being able to give those really important pieces to mom, dad, whoever you may be, is a huge piece. And being able to, send that out digitally. We're all on our phones these days, folks. It is time to save a couple of trees at the same time. The other piece too is they're looking at, of course, like a province-wide approach to quality, like assessment and how centers will be looked at. I can attest to, what happened in Alberta a couple of weeks back. They also have had, a bit of a change up in regards to their licensing and how it's approached and how they take the approach of getting relicensed out there. And Ontario is going to be looking at, providing us more information around those. Looking at unlicensed childcare center, I don't think it's a bad thing. I think that, looking a little bit more in detail of how they can be at a standard, our quality, our children, our future is in everybody's hands, and we want to make sure that there's a good place for it. Looking at obviously giving them more resources in unlicensed childcare centers. I'm curious, and I'd love to know if anyone's heard anything, a little bit more of an update to how does learning happen? That was another key piece in supporting quality in childcare centers. I'm curious as to what that will look like. I felt like it was pretty up to date to start with, but seeing how it fits in, how ELECT and it will walk hand in hand as they continue. And the other piece too is, looking at supporting early Ontario programs. It's a huge part. Part of the flexible plan for our families. The Schedule B, I think, has been at the top of everybody's mind, or the Schedule 2, sorry, I should say. That's where you can look at getting relicensed under different ratios, allows for a little bit more of an alternative age grouping. I think depending on the size of your center, it could be a fantastic piece. It may not be for everyone. So I would say look into what's your best fit for your center, for your philosophy, what's going on. The other one that comes under number 2 here is home childcares. So they've been talking about this for a while. Also, another one that I think we can echo that happened here in Alberta was that, we can look at 2 home childcares becoming 1 location. So a little bit of light still needing to be shed on that one, I personally think, but it's definitely there. And next up under that guy was the one that I think we've had maybe a little bit of, I don't want to say controversy, but we've had a lot of conversation about it. And that's that, the 3-hour rule from recreational programs and before and after care. The structure around that one has been pretty, I get both sides. Where centers, I think, are going to see a little bit of a hurt. I think that we're going to see a little bit more questions about what's happening with this, and getting more clarity provided. The other piece too with this guy is, clarifying what's going to happen around it. For staffing updates, I think a lot of this one here comes and speaks because of COVID, allowing for a little bit more flexibility on, if staff are out and being able to have somebody who's potentially not an ECE fill those roles, one of those educators, while a staff might be out, or you know, a short-term supply situation. I don't think it's a bad thing, as you know, educators can also be, you know, sadly in short supply. And I hope that's never the case for anybody. I know supply staff have been, it's hard no matter what you do. And talk a little bit about the Indigenous piece. I feel like there's more light coming around this one as well. I don't think we've been given a lot of clarity. But you know, really making sure that we're in tune to and talking more about in a better alignment with Indigenous history, culture, having people involved in planning and programming. I think it could be, you know, a hugely powerful piece. And I want to jump back there. I got excited about the Indigenous one, talk about number 4. I think we've already been doing this over the course of the last 10 years, making sure that inclusion for children who have any sort of special needs is a huge piece. So I think that that one just goes without saying. You know, I remember back when I went to school, we used to have a separate room in which they, like children with special needs, I should say, would be in their own classroom. Now they're part of the classroom. They're part of the everyday workings of what's happening, and there's no reason for it to not be like that. And I think just maybe giving some more support, what can be what we're looking for. Last but not least, look at that paperwork, folks. I'm hoping that, and this comes with the update of language, that we will get a lot more around, you know, getting rid of those double pieces, getting rid of, you know, the burden of some of the paperwork that's just so unnecessary. So we have a lot happening. I do highly recommend you check it out, but I wanted to do some key highlights in regards to a couple of these ones specifically. So talking a little bit more about record keeping, written reports, you know, being able to have an only digital format, I think is a really huge piece for some folks and many folks around the world. And at the end of the day, centers need to make sure that obviously they're making sure they're talking to the right people, especially their licensing reps, and that they're having those, you know, records placed in the correct places so that they can access them all correctly. You can do that within Hi Mama, hello. But making sure as well that, and I think the attendance piece, we're already kind of doing all of this personally, but making sure that your attendances are snap up to par, because it's a huge piece. And then we were talking about the daily reports for incident reporting. That's been a change. I want to talk with Ryan a little bit more about that. But you know, it's been a huge, you know, you've had to do it like 3 different ways, and now we're finally just getting rolled into some clarity. The other piece, flexible options. I talked a little bit about this, the Schedule 2. I'd love to know if any centers actually are going to this this ratio setting. I read it over the other day and thought it was a little wild, and then I realized, you know, it actually might really work out for some folks if you have a smaller center. I don't know how well it would work in a bigger center, but the 3-hour rule, that's been the big one. The big controversy. I don't know if anyone's done any reading in the news about it. A lot of conversation happening on about it. I highly recommend reading up a little bit more about it, because it's going to definitely be a piece for before and after care programs. That's changed over the last couple of years. So qualifications, I talked a little bit about this one, but I think that I wanted to highlight the, you know, the supervisor piece and the multi-site. I don't know if here folks come from many multi-sites. I know that you can find small town Ontario, you generally only have one location, but being able to move between one location to the other. And I think maybe Ryan can speak a little bit to this. I don't know how well it fits in with COVID. So there's lots of questions for me around that. And then supervisors. I feel like if you're in an early childhood program of any kind, I think that this could lead to maybe just thinking outside the box. Of course, making sure that you're following all the right regulations and rules. But I think that at the end of the day, you can definitely have some really cool opportunities and expanding programs in different lights and eyes, just from the experience that folks have been using. We need more about this guy. I feel like we just need more. It's in a very odd area right now, some ongoing pieces just to have some clearer policies around what's going on. Is there anything totally drastically different that we should be doing and we weren't doing? There's lots happening. We had talked a little bit about this piece, but I wanted to highlight a few more about, you know, we need to have more conversations. I know it's hard for some areas to get you know, partners with Indigenous folks. It just obviously depending on like their locations, but there's so many things out there, and I want to highly recommend, whether you're in a small community, if you're in the larger community, whatever it may be, maybe even reaching out and having some conversation with some folks that are around your area, getting them involved in things you can do at your center to just help promote things in a great and proper way. I think that this will be a huge piece moving forward. We also still need, once again, some more clarity on this one. Enough about me. I'm done. I want to bring on Ryan, folks. Ryan is a fantastic, I was going to say director, but that's your, chief executive officer at your center, Helping Hands Daycare. We've had you on before, but Ryan, welcome back.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. I want to start, for our folks who potentially have never seen you before or heard anything about you, tell us a little about yourself and then a little bit about Helping Hands Daycare.
Sure. So a little bit about myself. I guess I formally came up in the childcare space because Helping Hands has been a family-run business for more than 30 years. I went off on my own. I was a CEO of different businesses. I was a lobbyist in Canada and the US for about a decade. And the stars aligned for me to come back to the family business and help move it forward. So here I am. Helping Hands has 9 locations across primarily Durham region. We have recently moved up to Peterborough County as well. And we offer space for just about 900 children from infant to school age. Buildings are kind of across the board. We have standalone properties. We are in retail plazas. We are on second floors. So we're a little bit flexible in what we're able to make work, as long as there's lots of natural light and lots of space for the kiddos to play.
That's fantastic, and I love that you guys are up in the Peterborough area. I'm from Coburg, so to know that you guys are going out that way, go to Ryan's Daycare, guys.
Yeah.
Changes here. Well, I've had the pleasure. We've talked about this before in the past, you and I live, and maybe at a high level, what's the impacts that may have on your team? Maybe what's the scariest changes for you, and then what's your overall thoughts about it at a distance?
Sure. So I think you did a really good job of going through the high level changes. From an industry perspective, I would say the biggest change would be in relation to the allowance of after school and rec programs to operate for more than 3 hours. That is a fairly significant change, and it doesn't impact us as much, even though we do have school age rooms. We're not connected to a school at any of our centers, but that does create or could create a challenge in licensed childcare operators, basically competing or trying to offer spots against a rec program that would likely be able to offer it at a much lower rate. So that is, if I had to pick out one negative from the changes, that would probably be it. And I know there are folks that are a little closer to those challenges that are working hard to find a good solution for it. But besides that, the big thing that sticks out for me is really the clear language on being able to utilize digital file keeping, digital record keeping. For anyone on the webinar today that has tried to go down this path in the past, you actually get a different answer almost every time you ask. And this was pre-legislative change. And it's not a criticism at all. It was simply that program advisors or ministry representatives would interpret the old legislation slightly differently. So you may have one program advisor telling you, yes, it's okay to do X, Y, and Z, but not C, and another one saying, no, everything has to be paper-based, and I'm coming to check your file cabinet. But now I'm really pleased to see a definitive statement from the ministry and definitive legislation that says, yes, you can. Yes, you can keep things digitally. Yes, you can do it in a new way. And I really liken it to the change that happened in Ontario anyways, many years ago in the medical field, in record keeping for patient files. If you ever go into your family doctor who is nearing retirement, they still probably have one of those rolling file cabinets that they move to find your patient record in there. That is us. I mean, that is childcare in a nutshell. We don't have the big moving file cabinets, but we have paper and paper and paper coming out of every piece of storage equipment that we have. And this is, I think, a watershed moment for the industry to begin to take those critical steps towards what I hope will eventually be an administratively paperless environment.
I agree 100%. Every center I feel like has got the wheelie cart in some sort of version of all the paperwork that they've had to keep. And I'm the amount that you spend, especially, and I'm sure you probably have a better idea, the amount that you spend on paper and ink and saving and the space that goes with all of that is astronomical for most centers, not just even if you're small or large. It's a huge piece. What's been your overall thoughts then, Ryan? Like, I know too, as well for you, that going digital has probably been the biggest piece, and having that storage and being able to have it. But what about your families and your teachers? Have you gotten any negative responses from them about it? Have you gotten any wow moments? What's been their overall thoughts about the changes as they roll out?
Yeah, great question. And this is change management 101. It's changing historic processes that a lot of educators are comfortable with, a lot of directors are comfortable with, and it's putting in a new process that is entirely digital. So that takes time, and that takes a little bit of MacGyvering to make sure that you're not doing it too quickly. So one of the things that we've done, obviously we've been a subscriber to Hi Mama for many years now, and we've progressively rolled it out, starting with attendance and working between the children and the families. We then moved to adding our menus to the app as well, adding our weekly activity plans and lesson plans to the app as well. We're now exploring, kind of going even further into the app to see, okay, well, can we use health check functionality or the daily health reporting, to cover things like accident reports? Is that going to, be okay with the ministry when they come in and look at the records? My current gut feeling is yes, I think we're going to be able to do it. But also, looking at the entire system and using Hi Mama and more to say, okay, can we completely digitize the registration process? Can we completely digitize onboarding of new staff and staff record retention, and where do we file that and where do we keep it? So this, I will tell you, this isn't a one-day effort. It is a ongoing, a multi-week year effort to fully transfer everything over. But the Hi Mama app really gives you a good head start in getting there and being able to get comfortable with everything. And the last thing I'll say, Rhea, on that is, even looking at things like sleep checks. So sleep checks being done historically on paper, and then filing that. Now you have a record for eternity until you're allowed to destroy it many, many, many years from now. The sleep check functionality is a great way to remove that paper from circulation as well. So there's really a good opportunity before us as an industry to move towards paperless administration, and focus any of our paper or ink efforts on things that we can utilize in the classroom for the children's sake.
First of all, Ryan, I love hearing from customers. I love when you, like, even you telling your story about how you guys rolled it out and knowing that it does take time, and to like actually echo that. It's the same thing when you make any changes if they're on paper. Like, think of it, you're doing the same work just on a different platform and rolling out in a different way versus the way that you would have on paper. So I love that. Thank you for sharing that, for starters. And I wanted to pick your brain, because I don't know if I've ever actually asked you this, but why did you pick Hi Mama? Maybe tell us the story about how you got on board with us.
Yeah, so it was kind of an alignment of the stars as well, which was you were a little bit early in your development stage. It hadn't reached our area yet, and it seemed like a really good opportunity to test it out and start to roll with it. Quite honestly, the success of the program has been incredible for us. We have parents using or asking the question at registration: do you use Hi Mama? Have you used Hi Mama? We use it at another center. We use it as a marketing tool. It is absolutely a marketing tool for centers that use it, because it is a value add for parents. It allows them to be part of their day. But I also think it's important to note that when you make these changes, when you bring on some of these powerful digital tools to increase the effectiveness or improve processes at your center, always be aware of the technology side. We have some centers that are 25 and 25-year-old, 30-year-old buildings, and some of the hardwiring for internet, for example, is just not there. So we've had to take deliberate steps to ensure that the infrastructure behind the scenes can support all the things that you can do with it. And once you're able to get a grasp on that, there are really limitless things that you can do with the technology as part of your day-to-day.
Ryan, thank you so much. I wanted to ask one last question before I kick you off and invite Linda on. We all know, talking COVID for a minute and changing gears here, we all know it's obviously had a very interesting impact on centers, on no matter where they are, educators around the world. Any advice for centers who maybe haven't jumped yet, who haven't gone digital here in Ontario, are thinking about it? Maybe what's any recommendations you want to give those folks about making the change just in general? Sure.
So obviously COVID in all of our cases has prevented parents from coming in on a daily basis. And we're now more than a year into it. The Hi Mama platform has allowed us to remain engaged with parents throughout the process. So not just from a messaging standpoint, which was really important to us from like March 17th to June 22nd last year, being able to have that central source of distribution for messages and updates and anything we could tell them to, kind of keep them in the know. But being able for parents to see what their children are doing every day, to interact with the teachers, with the educators, being able to check their menu, being able to check their activity plan, all of that, their toileting and bathroom breaks, all of that are critical components for ongoing engagement in a world where we just simply don't have that face-to-face right now. And quite honestly, I'd be surprised if we have that before the end of this year. So it has been really good for us across all of our 9 centers to be able to utilize that and still engage with parents. We also use it for screening. We use the messaging function literally on a daily basis with pre-scheduled screening questions going out where parents answer that. So that solves our record keeping requirements for parent screening questions. And that is very simple for our directors to do. So yeah, it's been kind of holistically very helpful for us as we navigate the challenging times we all live in.
And it's not over yet, but I think a little light at the end of the tunnel. It's coming, maybe a little slower than we want it to. Yeah. But Ryan, thank you. I'll bring you back on for Q&A. I'm going to kick you off. Miss Linda, please join us here. We have Lyndon Martin, RECE. I'm sorry. I'm RECE Director of, oh my goodness, I'm just losing it. It's only Tuesday. I can't get anything going for me. It's all good. Director at Green Apple Kids. Fun fact, folks, Miss Kaya here used to work with Linda. I love that. Tell us though, Linda, a little about yourself. Tell us a little bit about the center, of course.
Of course, yeah. So my name is Linda. I've been in the field for about 30 years. So I was 4 when I started. So I've actually been at Green Apple Kids since almost its beginning. It opened in June of 2009 and I started in September. So was very lucky to be part of an organization almost from the get-go, from ground up. Had actually come from a school-based childcare environment as a manager. So very different to go from dealing with, grade 4 students to 3-month-olds. So big shift, lots of changes. I also too was around from when the Day Nurseries Act was our Bible. So thank you for making me feel like I have some veteran people around me as well. So yeah, there's been, significant changes in the field. And I always joke with everybody that the only thing that is consistent about our field is change. There's just always been change. And I think, if COVID hasn't taught us anything about resiliency, I don't know what has, but I think for people that have been in the field, any longer than a couple of years, change is ever present. Whether it's, things like the CCEYA or municipal changes, federal funding, you name it, it's always on the go. So it has taught us to be very, very resilient. And I think that trickles down to parents and, supporting them with changes, and it trickles down with kids learning how to, manage teachers in masks and and things like that. So you know what, we're a pretty hardy, strong group.
I 100% agree. To echo that, we definitely are. We've built that resilience, like you said. The change has been probably the most consistent piece in every educator's lives.
Yeah.
Let's talk, of course, Ontario changes, maybe at a high level for you folks over there at Green Apples. Will there be big changes for you guys? Do you see any negative or positive impacts on your end at the center?
I think the timing has probably been the most challenging part of it. You know, just the timing to have change on top of all of the COVID changes. Those were significant protocol changes for our families, for our staff, for the center, for our budgets. You know, those were massive changes that we had to undergo. And often those changes roll in, you know, after hours on a Friday night. So, and by the way, they come into effect Monday morning. So, you know, I think the recent Child Care Early Years Act changes, for the most part, haven't had a significant impact on us because we're dealing with 0 to 5. But I understand the impact that it does have on school age programming, and coming from a school age environment, I understand the plus side and the negative side to some of that. I think for us, the biggest part about any changes, particularly with legislation, is making sure parents are informed, making sure staff are informed, you know, having those conversations with them, providing them with the tools that they need to survive the changes and supporting them and getting them to understand the whys, and also just having a conversation about it. And I think I definitely have noticed, being in environments with inspectors and now called program advisors, there's been a shift in their mindset. And Ryan kind of touched on it too, about, you know, the continuity and the consistency every time you would have a new person come in to do your licensing. And you're basically at ground zero. So, you know, where you're starting with them, do they understand your program? But also not pushing back in a negative way, but asking those difficult questions. You know, what can we do? Still following the rules, but what can we do it looking outside the box a little bit? So I think those are progressive changes that are happening. I think that the concept of licensing now is much more adversarial than it ever was before. It used to be incredibly punitive. I would find staff would hold their breath from the time that person walked in the building until they left. And they had this unbelievable guilt of they're doing something wrong, because sometimes we didn't know if we were doing it wrong or right, because last year we were doing it right and now apparently we're doing it wrong. So I think having that continuity piece is huge, and having the opportunity to get clarification. And I find that now the Ministry of Education, people coming in directly into our lives that have a huge impact on our livelihood, are supportive, and they're understanding, and there's compassion, and it's not such a punitive sort of perspective on, you know, getting that piece of paper and then going, okay, now we have a year to breathe.
I 100% agree. I definitely was that staff who held their breath, especially my very first one. And as well, I feel like I definitely have seen the staff where at just the center I worked at, it was like you'd get the call that licensing was there, and all of a sudden we're all calling around, running around, making sure we're not doing anything wrong when we really weren't doing anything wrong.
You got it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's terrifying. So I think that there's lots more discussions to be had. I think I appreciate the fact that the Ministry of Education is actually reaching out to us before they're making these sweeping changes, because most often people that are writing policy have not walked the walk. And that's difficult. And I understand that regulation is important. It's what keeps everybody safe. But sometimes the changes are being made just for the sake of change. And I don't think that's necessarily a positive direction to be going. So the fact that they're inviting conversation, and for us, what we do is we send that information out to the staff right away and say, listen, these are some of the things that are coming down the pipe. Think about how this can impact your profession. How do you feel about that? So having those conversations, getting their input, and then using us maybe as the sound piece that then sends that back. And same thing with the parents, getting them to understand. I mean, our parents have been incredibly supportive, incredibly appreciative. I think one of the positive things that we can take out of COVID is that childcare has been put in a much brighter light than it ever was before, because families didn't have it for a huge part of their life. And so I think parents are incredibly appreciative and much more understanding of what goes on in childcare now. And not that they didn't respect it before, but I think they have a very different perspective of it now. So getting them to understand these are the changes that are coming. How does that in fact impact your family? How does it impact what you think about quality childcare and what that represents? So those conversations are beneficial to have. And I think that they're slowing down the pace of some of the broad sweeping changes they had in mind. You guys touched on this, the Schedule 2. I think this is the third kick at the can to try to get Schedule 2 into the forefront. And I don't think many of us are biting. And not that that's not good or bad or indifferent, but I think that a lot more people are saying, okay, wait a minute, let's really look at this before we put this out there. And let's really understand what this could mean, not for just one side of the party, but also really what's best for those children. And also, how are the staff going to be able to support these families? Is it better that they are in a specified age group? Or, you know, I mean, and some of this is best practices. We have children in our infant room at 16 months that are more than ready to be in a toddler room. And because we have the mixed age grouping ratio built in, we can use that to our benefit. And that's what's best for that child. But it doesn't mean that's what's best for the other 9 babies in that class. So, you know, having those conversations and making sure that the changes they're making, they're being made for the right reasons, not just because, oh, it's been 5 years and it's time to revamp. So communication is a huge, huge piece of this.
I would say, if anything, Linda, that it's a big piece that I've heard, and in a variety of ways from you here right now, actually, like you're communicating with your staff about obviously the changes and making sure they're well informed on top of your parents, making sure they're well informed. And I think that as a broader scope, that is hugely important, especially as well as continuing that advocacy for what changes do come in the future. Like you said, with Schedule B, I remember seeing it when they came out with the CCEYA, and how they were, I think they were trying back then to do it, and it wasn't flying. It just didn't stick. So I agree, though, in the sense of, like you said, with your 16-month-olds, it's a piece that, is that child ready? And if they are, like you guys have it built that way, other centers, it might be still a little more structured. So it may provide them some of that, but then it may not work in the philosophy of the center too. And I think that makes a big change. So
and I think it just, I think that there's just less of an umbrella coverage for things, that there are unique situations, and that inclusion piece comes out of that too.
I agree 100%. No, it definitely ties back, I feel like, in that inclusion piece. And hopefully once we do get some more light on that guy, it will definitely play part and parcel with it. So let's talk a little bit about your Hi Mama journey, because I had the pleasure, of course, talking with Kaya, learning a little bit more about your center and like the philosophy behind it, and what your centers do. But let's hear about your story, what brought you on with Hi Mama, and maybe how you got down that path. I like this.
Yeah, I think for our management team, I think a big part of it was the amount of time we were spending creating beautiful spreadsheets. It was lovely. And we've become really quite good at Excel over the years, but we were reinventing the wheel over and over and over again. And we have 2 locations. So, it's the time that was being spent to create a form for this location, and then another, management team member creating another fancy, lovely, pretty, spreadsheet for that location. To make it uniform also for families that if they do start off their tenure with us in the infant room and eventually transfer down to the other center, we want to have that continuity between the programs. And that's what Hi Mama does, because it's standardized. And that makes things look very professional. I think that's really, really a big crux of it too, is making sure that the professionalism is being emulated through everything that we do. And Ryan touched on it, is value added for parents. Communication with parents has been really stripped down with COVID. And so anything we can do to support these families, even for our students that returned to us, we were closed from mid-March until the end of August. We reopened in September. So we had families that returned to us, but it was very much like day one all over again. If you take about, an infant or a toddler and take 6 months out of their life and plop them back in, I mean, it wasn't just, oh, welcome back, we just closed the door Friday and we reopened Monday. Those children really had to start from scratch again, and so did the family. So having a communication communication tool for families, even returning families that already knew who we were, that we weren't strangers to them. Think about a family that hadn't been in the center, had never even come for a tour, and has a 10-month-old baby that they're going to be plopping off at a doorway, and then saying, okay, well, we'll see you in 9 hours. We have no idea who you are. The children have never met you without a face mask and goggles on. So communication was absolutely crucial. Reassuring for families, getting those pictures, those video links, those little messages that said, I know she was crying when she walked in the door. I haven't even got her hat off and she's giggling and laughing. Those things are so helpful for families and for teachers too, because we know that that teacher that is tearing this child out of this, parent's hands is really having a hard time saying, trust me, mom and dad, they really are fine when you walk away. Before you put the key in the car, they're going to be playing in the drama center. That doesn't mean anything when that poor parent is having a nervous breakdown in the driveway. So, the communication piece for us was really, really valuable. I think the other part of it is having tools for staff that are easy to use. They're being used for the right reasons. It's not a burden for them to have to learn new material. They are busy. They got a lot going on. Pre-COVID, they were busy and had a lot going on. Now they have even more stuff on their plates. And that's worrisome for us to make sure that they're feeling, healthy and safe and happy and mentally supported. So to have a tool that is going to give them everything they need to get it done in a professional and efficient way, I think there's so much value added to that.
Linda, thank you for that. Like, it makes my heart warm when I hear all of these things. So thank you for all of that. Like, it makes me so happy. I want to pivot a little bit, talk about navigating the pandemic. I know you've touched on this a little bit, especially with that communication piece, which I think at the end of the day is the top of the line for every center. They want that communication, the community with mom and dad and the other community. I think it makes a core of a center. I think that it has a huge piece to it. Tell us a little bit about if centers were, and it's similar to Ryan's question, actually, if centers haven't pivoted yet to going digital, and of course, like at the end of the day, you got to do what's right for your center, your philosophy, things like that. But if they haven't, do you have any recommendations or tips on where to start about making the change if they are looking at going digital?
Yeah, I think with any change, starting small is going to be helpful. I mean, I'm always if anybody wants to call me and say, okay, Linda, off camera, lay it on the line. What do you think about this? I'm going to be blatantly honest with people and say, listen, this is working for us. If it wasn't working, we wouldn't be using it 6 years later. I think it's at least 6 years. Because listen, we got a lot going on. So listen, if it's not working, I'm not going to use it. So definitely, I think don't put in sweeping changes that now every single thing we do is going to be on this tablet. Your staff will leave. They will be in tears. Change has to start slowly and it has to be supported. So, because we were already so comfortable and confident with Hi Mama, when we added things like temperature checks, well, we got it. It's just a little click, it's done, it's already there. And the funny thing is the kids are familiar with it too. They know when the thermometers come out, they can go in and they see, where their little picture is. And, they're very integrated into the whole system of using the app. And so, yeah, start off small, don't do crazy things. But I think if you sort of sit back and think about all the time your management team is spending with paperwork, creating forms that you needed, amending those forms, what's working, not working, it's much more time efficient, much more user friendly, and take the burden off your staff. They've got a lot of balls in the air. We want to make sure they're going to be okay at the end of the day, and to burden them with extra duties and responsibilities on top of all the other stuff. Don't do that to yourself. Don't do it to them. I think once you feel the success and the amount of stress level drop, you'll realize it is a much more user-friendly interface. And it will save so much time. And again, that value added, the professionalism piece is huge. It really, really, really will show to your clients that this is a place of professional education.
I think to echo, oops, sorry, I know that's me echoing in the background. To echo what Ryan said and yourself there, you both seem to take that progressive onboarding technique.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a huge thing. I agree. We've had so much change over all the years that we all have been in the education space, and to have that nice, just slow impact of change. This way you like you said, you're supporting your teachers, you're supporting the parents, and you're supporting the children with the ongoing change, and it's in a good pace. So Linda, thank you. Thank you so much. I want to open up for some Q&A. So Ryan, I'm going to invite you back on. We just have a minute or two left for Q&A, but I have one that, and especially because both of you have been long-term users, and I know, of course, things have changed over the years. The app has grown, you folks have grown, and maybe Linda, I'll start with you. In the process in the past, maybe what has been a way you guys have gone about, because of course we've done record keeping, we have record keeping online. And one of the questions is referring to the record keeping being online, but not maybe having it in a paper format during an inspection. I know with us, like you can access thing anywhere, whether it be on a phone, a tablet, or wherever, but of course, hopefully the binders are going out the door, because goodness, all our backs. But maybe what's been your process for inspection with having the things you do have on digital format, and as of course you make changes?
Yeah, so we actually have had, I would say, since we've had Hi Mama, I think too, program advisors are seeing it a lot more, so they're feeling more comfortable with it as well. We have had program advisors walk right into the class and ask the teachers, can you show me today's attendance? Can you show me, a message that you sent to a parent? Anything like that. And absolutely, it's never been a problem. Again, I think because there has been a shift in the program advisors now, they're understanding, and making sure that, if, someone had mentioned, what if there's a power outage and all that kind of stuff? Listen, that's going to happen. That's going to happen no matter what. Pre-Hi Mama, that was going to happen. And it's just life. But, I think there's a lot more familiarity with technology now. And so, yeah, I would say probably in the last 4 to 5 years, most of my program advisors just want to see that I can access that data if I need to. And I mean, I access Hi Mama at night when the center's closed, because if there's messages coming in, I don't want any surprises for my staff when they open in the morning. So anything we can do to support that family overnight, and support those teachers for in the morning, so that they know there was a situation, there was an issue, there was a lost mitten, whatever it was. And not that we want management team working after hours, but if we can put out a fire before it becomes a fire, that's the awesome thing about having that tool as well. So we haven't had any issues with licensing whatsoever since we brought Hi Mama into our centers. I think that they're again, I think there's been a significant shift in the sort of the mindset of the PAs, a little bit more forward thinking and a little bit more thinking outside the box.
Ryan, did you want to add at all, maybe in your experience with licensing and having any of that, being able to access and obviously making sure you're getting everything you need for licensing reps as they do come in?
Yeah, I think Linda nailed it. It's just communicating with your PA to make sure that they understand your processes, understand what you're using, understand why they don't see a paper-based attendance form or paper-based X, Y, and Z. The question about, if you don't have internet, when I first brought this up to one of our PAs, I said, okay, fair question. If we can't access records right now or what you're looking for, what do we do? I said, but what if our file cabinet was jammed? What if we weren't able to get in an office? What if a door lock broke? It's basically the digital version of physical, the more manual process we're doing right now. So what I basically said to our team is, make your best efforts. Hopefully the internet is not down. If it is, look to maybe tether your phone, create a temporary connection to Hi Mama. I mean, we're talking about a very specific what if. It hasn't happened to us, but we do have some contingency plans in place in the event that they do. But quite honestly, the PAs, and Linda, I think you were absolutely correct in that. Our experience has been that they've really changed their mindset as well to being collaborative and working with you. And quite honestly, these changes that came out, it creates a learning curve for them as well. They have received the legislation, and now they are expected to basically enforce it and license it. So
Yeah.
It's a collaborative effort there, but yeah, there's lots of workarounds in the event that technology is not cooperating that day. But I think it's a very reasonable workaround.
Ryan and Linda, both of you, thank you so much for joining us, for giving some insight on how, what you think about the CCEYA changes, about how it potentially is working in your favor, what things you potentially could see, being a little bit of a bumpy ride down the road for any educator, any setter down the road. Thank you for enlightening us with some of your stories about how and why you use Hi Mama. I personally love being able to hear these. I love being able to share these with the community and know that we have the support team here to help us. But maybe Linda, if you want to start here, any last words of advice, thoughts, happy thoughts you'd love to share with the team, anything you want to leave us with today?
Well, like I said, if anybody does want to talk to me off camera, I have no issues with that. I'm happy to support anybody through the process. Like I said, as a manager, you're busy, you got lots of stuff in the air. So whatever you can do to make your life easier, I'm all for it. Life is very short, so let's live. And I think, what, we're 7 months in. We opened in September, and I'm crossing fingers, toes, eyes, and every piece of wood, but we have had no cases with our staff, no cases with our students. And that's just been, it's a collaborative effort. So listen, we're 7 months in. I think the worst is over. Just make sure everybody's doing okay, making sure everybody's staying physically and mentally healthy, which is a big piece of important pie that we need to look at. And just think about how far we've come, all the significant changes. We got this. You know what? Like I said, change is a permanent thing in our life, and we've got this. So just keep doing what we're doing, keep smiling, because if you don't smile, you cry. So you know what, we will get through this, and we'll be much better for it on the other end. I think there's been some really positive things that have come out of COVID, and then we need to focus on that. It's very easy to get sort of hung up on all the negativity with COVID, and I think we've learned to do things in a very different way and still, have happy kids and happy parents and happy teachers. And ultimately, that's really what we all want.
Thank you so much, Linda. Thank you for spending the hour with us and giving us your words of wisdom and advice. Ryan, any happy thoughts, piece of advice, anything you want to leave the crew with today?
I don't know if I can beat Linda's. Those are really happy parting thoughts. The only thing I'd share that we haven't really touched on, and I saw a question in the chat about billing through Hi Mama. That aligned really well for us because we turned it on March 1 of last year. And we had been working towards that goal from probably about November or December. But fast forward to June when we reopened after COVID, not after, but when we were allowed to reopen. That took away a very, very significant portion of contact with parents, which was positive because we then didn't have to, worry about staff or supervisors being there and collecting payments in person and all that stuff. Everything was done in the back end. Everything was done automated. So being able to have that handled on a normal day was a huge value proposition, which is why we did it prior to COVID. But now in COVID, the fact that we're collecting no fees by hand, no fees in person, everything is done through the system, including all of the record keeping, is wonderful. So that has been very helpful. But just to agree with Linda's comments that we're working through this. The parents have been incredible. I think most importantly, we've been able collectively to create safe and happy places for children on a daily basis, and that's what we're all in this to do, and we will get through it at some point. I think there's 3 million vaccines coming this week, and my understanding is that April 1 is kind of the kickoff for early childhood educators to start to be considered for vaccines. So fingers crossed that you guys are next up and you'll be getting jabbed in the arm really soon.
I agree. I see the light. I can't echo this enough, but thank you both for being here. Thank you both once again for sharing your thoughts, sharing your happy pieces about Hi Mama, all of it. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on. This is the part of my job that I absolutely love and enjoy. Thank you for being here. We're going to jump into wrap up. I know it's pretty much on the nose here for 2. Don't leave yet. If you haven't left, I have 2 pieces of information that are super important I wanted to tell you about. So if you haven't, Ryan and Linda have both been talking about, there's so many pieces about Hi Mama that you can use if you'd love to join the family or even talk about joining the family. I cannot stress this enough. I do recommend you chat with my fabulous colleagues, because at the end of the day, they work through and make sure you have an amazing fit. And tell them I sent you. Maybe if you even want to go far as tell them Kaya sent you. No, don't tell them that. I'm just joking, Kaya. Tell them Kaya or I sent you. At the end of the day, they're there to help you guys, folks. They're to make sure that you guys are signing up with what's best for you guys to get going and then working out, rolling you out. We have the fabulous team here. We are proudly Toronto-based, Canadian-based, and we actually have a great little deal to get you guys rolling. We know COVID's been really, really hard on everybody, of course, but especially here in Ontario, just with the amount of months you guys were closed up. But please tell them I sent you. You'll get till June free with Hi Mama if you sign up for 12 months. This is my shameless plug, guys. And at the end of the day, I would love to have as many of you folks on with Hi Mama, because to have you part of the crew, the community is a big piece. So please do. Kaya's going to post, there's a link in the chat that can actually take you right there. You can do some read up before you do get on the phone with us and have a chat. So please do take advantage of this guy. Julie's on the other end of the phone. I'm sure maybe Ryan or Linda have both chatted with Julie at some point, but to know that we're there. So folks, this week we have assessments and observations happening. That's Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have Zoe from the support team who's going to be joining us to talk a little bit about how you use Pearson in Hi Mama, because we have some great assessment pieces as a nice little plug there, as well as the importance around observations and assessments, and coming from Dr. Meisels, who's actually one of the people who helped create ounce scale and work sampling. So at the end of the day, certificate is in the chat as well. My husband's on a call now, folks. What happens when you work from home? Anyways, it happens. Please do, if you don't get this guy right now, don't fret. It will be in the show notes tomorrow, but it will be there. It's in the chat, so just click on it. It will open a new tab for you. So then you can download as a PDF, pop in your name, pop in your center name. Please do connect with us social media, Facebook, Instagram, listen to our podcasts. We got everything going there for you, so please don't be shy. We'd love to have you part of the community to share your words of wisdom and be part of the community. It's a fantastic place to be. So thank you so much for being a part of us here today, folks. I'm going to let you stay on one more minute to grab your certificate. Kaya, did I miss anything?
You nailed it. I was really having a lot of fun hanging out with our Ontario family and hearing the amazing stories from Ryan and Linda. Thank you both so much. Linda actually is my old director, so I was really thrilled that we could have her on. And Ryan, I'm very familiar with from our previous webinars, and Helping Hands is all over Ontario. So definitely both close to my heart. So loved this session. Absolutely loved it.
It was fantastic, folks. Thank you from everyone at Hi Mama. Stay healthy, stay happy, stay safe, and we'll see everyone hopefully on Thursday. Bye.